Hey, I have a question for you all. Who am I now? Or who are you now? And particularly if you're a woman in your, let's say, late 40s, early 50s, early 60s, you might be asking that question based on, where you've been throughout your life, all of your life experiences. And then you get to a point and you're like, now what? So first of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Kneller. I am a life coach. I'm a reinvention life coach. And what I do is I help women flourish through the use of positive psychology, self-coaching, and transformative conversation. And I help unleash women's potential who are feeling kind of stuck. And that's my line of work. You can find out more about me at lisanellercoaching.com. And if you're an empty nesting woman, I invite you to go over to reinventionlifecoach.com and get my free video series right now so that you can get a head start on charting a new course. Now, our speaker today knows about reinvention. Her name is Isabel Banerjee, and she is a catalyst for change. Now, I want to start with this. Here are some possibilities for young girls if they only knew. A farm girl transforms to the phantom lady. A high school student graduates to advise government and industry. A pregnant teen grows up to be an award-winning entrepreneur. An abuse survivor learns to thrive. A rural childhood is the foundation for a global thinker. A lifelong learner shares why she is qualified by experience and her commitment to lift as you climb. And that's hashtag lift as you climb. So Isabel Banerjee didn't run away from home at age 16, but she did walk pretty damn fast. She's been moving forward and upward ever since, and she's going to share her story tonight. Here's a little bit more about Isabel. A dynamic, self-made entrepreneur who overcame obstacles with an unrelenting positive nature. A farm girl work ethic and a conscious choice to thrive rather than survive. Isabel Banerjee cultivated an award-winning $10 million plus chemical wholesale business and grew it from dining room table to international boardrooms. Mrs. Banerjee has participated in international trade missions, contributed articles to trade publications, lectured at academic institutions, and has also been interviewed in multiple publications and radio programs. Isabel's strengths include the ability to initiate and nurture strategic relationships, a love of lifelong learning and talents for helping others maximize their potential. An inspiring speaker within both industry and community, she is a driving force behind those with the courage to follow her example of thriving against the odds. With 50 plus years of business experience across diverse industries, Isabel is respected as an advisor, a coach, a mentor, and a role model. She believes in sharing collective wisdom and empowering others to economic independence. Oh, I love that. And her personal mantra is lift as you climb. We're going to talk about that tonight. Isabel is also the author of Who Am I Now? Feminine Wisdom Unmasked and Uncensored. And here it is right here, which speaks to reinvention so beautifully. She highlights her own story and those of other women who have recreated their lives, some of them many times over. The book leaves the reader with a feeling of belonging and hope that opportunities will present themselves if only you stay open to them. She is also the creator of the Encore Catalyst, which you'll hear more about later. And I cannot wait to hear about her offerings. So welcome, Isabel. I am so glad you are here to share your wisdom tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lisa. And my apologies if there was a little disruption at the beginning. I didn't turn the volume off on my phone, so my bad.
No worries. No worries. I talk loud enough, so I'm sure that people heard me speak. I just want to point out again to your book and this cool little business card that matches. I think this is awesome.
Thank you very much for that. And in case you're wondering, anyone, that is me in that photograph. And that was the pivotal moment when I was at a cottage in Northern Ontario in Canada, standing there looking out over the lake, that I asked myself that question, who am I now? And you're right, Lisa. As women, multiple times through our lives, that's a question on our lips because we are constantly, as one of your favorite words, reinventing, transforming, changing, up-leveling, growing into our next role in life.
Yes, for sure. Now, Isabel, I would love for you to start with your story. You have a fascinating story starting from a young age. So we'll get into some of the other things afterwards, but I just really want you to set the foundation for what you have endured and how you've transformed.
Well, as you mentioned in the introduction, Lisa, I really didn't start out in the conventional track. I didn't go to university and study business or get a chemical degree. I left home at the age of 16, became a teenage mom, and had a great motivation to take care of this little family. Fortunately, I came from a farming background, so there was an instilled work ethic. But I had a overwhelming desire not just to survive. I certainly didn't want to be a victim, but I didn't want to just survive. I really wanted to thrive. And through the experiences of working many different jobs and having the benefit of having many different teachers and mentors, I was able to acquire skills and just keep building on those as we do as women. We're constantly going to, the school of life. And that led me through a series of different industries. And then one day, quite by surprise, to the chemical industry. And after a few years in that industry, I felt like the road was coming to an end there, and it wasn't my choice or my control. But since that company went out of business, I decided to become the world's best Mary Kay consultant. And while I was pursuing that ambition, I did benefit again from a lot of teaching and education and mentors in that area. But the chemical industry pulled me back. And without any forethought or plan, I started my own business in 1989 from my dining room table. And 20 years of learning every day on the job, literally, about how to build a global chemical business as a distributor and a wholesaler, and to grow into being a CEO on an international platform. It was a wild ride. It was a great adventure. And today I'm sitting here calmly telling you about that, but I wasn't always calm. I certainly, had to buckle up and scream loudly sometimes, as the roller coaster of entrepreneurship will do to you. And eventually we reached our pinnacle of 14 million a year in sales. And I loved it then, and looking back, I love it still. But then it was time to transform again. And so that's what we're going to talk a bit more about as well, correct?
Yes. And I just have to say, I admire you for having had that experience and having, I love how you said you consciously chose to thrive versus survive.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful choice of words and philosophy to live by. So I think what you've done is extraordinary. And really, I don't like to compare myself to other women or people. And my experience is so different that I sort of stand in awe. So just so you know. But in your book, Who Am I Now, on page 1, you said, this is a quote, during the past 10 years, I felt like Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole, growing, shrinking, not quite fitting in, experiencing the unexpected and unpleasant effects of feeling like a stranger in the land of, I've never been this me before. I'm wondering if you could speak to this more and explain how this feeling that you had might even relate to other women who are experiencing a very similar feeling.
Absolutely. And just, to be clear, I don't think that I'm extraordinary or that I did something that other people couldn't do. I had a strong motivator, and that was I didn't want to go back to the farm, and I wanted to provide my son with the best life I could. It certainly helps to have some character traits of curiosity, and sometimes it's absolute foolishness, but I am more open to experiencing things perhaps than some people are. But that also comes from being definitely a lifelong learner. And so I've always enjoyed, okay, let's learn about that. How can I teach myself how to be that? And so that relates to Alice, as she tumbled down into that rabbit hole and had the experience of never fitting in. That's how I felt all my life. Because I started on my own early, and because I ended up being a manager and leading teams that were 3-4 times older than me, just because I put my hand up and did it, I had never felt I was the right age for what I was doing, or really in most of my younger life. I never felt I had the education, the look, the qualifications. But I thought, well, gosh, I still have to keep going. First of all, again, I had the drive to provide for my family. And also, I said I would. I gave my word to whomever had tasked me with the opportunity. And so I felt a sense of obligation or responsibility to do the best that I could. And I think it's the same for us all as women, especially, that, we start out in all these roles where the child and the youth and the teen, and then we transition into young adulthood. And each time we're learning that role as we go along. It doesn't come with, as I say, a manual that tells you how to be that next. And of course, we're taking in the inputs in our environment and the role models that we observe, the mentors that we reach out to. But I feel that then it really starts to pick up speed when you move into that young adulthood, and it's, the old sort of societal pressures used to be, finish school, get a job, fall in love, get married, buy a house, have a family, do. And if you didn't check off those boxes, you were somehow incomplete and deficient, right? And so there's, for me, there's always been this, okay, yes, I'm supposed to do that. That's what society said. But, there's also this other opportunity here I'd like to explore. And why can't I do both? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not alone in that journey. You have wisdom in that area as well, right?
Well, I think you were probably a Renaissance woman, because I did follow a more traditional path, but it's only because I feel like we're built for certain things, and I don't necessarily believe in fatalism, but I also believe that we have certain gifts, and sometimes, like, I wasn't meant to be a brain surgeon or a lawyer. I I don't take issue with that, just because I was happy doing what I did, which was mainly being a parent. So for 28 years. So I had other interests. I kept busy. I did a lot of other things, but yeah, I do think you were and are a Renaissance woman, because you're right. That wasn't really traditional coming from our era, particularly. And
Right.
yeah. So tell us where your personal mantra, lift as you climb, comes from.
I don't remember where I first heard it, but when I did, it just resonated so deeply to me, because I could not have done any of the things that I have so far in my life. And I certainly won't be able to do the other things that I hope will happen in my life without um, someone else reaching back and giving me a hand forward, or pulling me up. Lighting my torch is another way, when you light someone else's torch. And I've right from, particularly when I was that teenager, the farm girl in the big city trying to figure out how to make this all work, I had to learn from women and men, but especially women. I didn't have the experience or the role models to be the leader of a staff. I had some from a child, but there was so much more about owning my feminine power, staying true to my own values, but still being a leader and guiding other people. And it was such a tremendous gift to me to have people say, "Hey, come here. Let me share this experience from my life with you." They weren't people that said you should. They, not at least the ones that I really think had a significant impact in my life. They were the ones that said, "Let me tell you a story about something similar that happened to me, and this is how I handled it." And they allowed me to see myself in the story and to then modify it to suit my personality, my strengths, and my ambitions. And so grateful. I'm so filled with gratitude for all of those mentors that invested in my development and my continual evolution, that it's become something now for a very long time that for me, I must do. I want to pay that forward for many other people.
That's a beautiful thing, and we are going to talk about what it is you are doing now. But first of all, I do want you to talk a little bit about your book. Tell us what you want people to know about your book, what inspired you, what it's about, that kind of thing.
Well, I was not always this cool, calm, put together, collected individual. In fact, there are many times in my life, and many people who know me well, that will say, no, she was a mess many, many times. The book comes out of mostly my experience when I sold my business, and I was in that transitional period of, I was very much, I knew who I was back then. I had that business card that reminded me of it every day. To when I was now, what I was in my late 50s, trying to figure out, okay, who am I now? I'm not the CEO of that, and I don't even live in the same country anymore, and I'm not even married to the same man anymore, and I don't have the same friends, and my interests were changing. My core values didn't change, but my perspective was opening up, and I found it very difficult. In fact, I called that period of my life that I was suffering from a severe case of identity crisis syndrome. I thought there was something wrong with me, Lisa. I really did. I thought, what the heck? You can run a company that has footprints on 5 continents and do stuff that they never heard of on the farm, but you can't figure out how to transition from that role to the next new wonderful role in your life. And I was totally mystified. I felt shamed. I felt frightened. I felt confused. I was Alice down there in the rabbit hole. And it took me several years of researching, reading, going, taking programs, going to therapy, everything to try to sort out what the heck is going on. And after I figured it out, and I figured out the problem and the solution, I thought, oh, this is not fair. I can't let anybody else I like go through that same mess. I would be ashamed of myself if I didn't share what I'd learned from that experience to save other people time, money, anguish in their transformation. And as we said, as women, we're constantly transforming and reinventing in our life. But there's some bigger bigger gaps at certain stages in our life, moving from that business idea, I thought, the CEO of something, to this, okay, now I'm in this role. And so I kept a note of what I had learned about that and how I figured out how to resolve that challenge. And I threatened to write that book probably, 6-7 years ago. And I didn't get around to it. I started it as entrepreneurs and, squirrel chasers like myself will do. And suddenly I realized last year, oh my gosh, my 65th birthday is looming. If I'm going to do this, it has to be now. So I made a commitment to publish before my birthday, and to ensure that I did so, I harnessed the power of public humiliation, and I emailed 40 of my friends, women that I respect, and said, this is what I want to do. Please hold my feet to the fire. And by cracky, they did. But they also did something else that surprised me. When I shared what I wanted to write about, all of these evolutions as a woman in my life and what I'd learned from that, hands started going up. Phone calls, emails, personal conversations, and they were saying, I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me. You mean I'm not the only one going through all of that stuff? And so then I knew, okay, I absolutely must write this book. And I wanted to not just tell my story, which is what it started out to be, but I wanted to tell the story of the other women. So in this first book, and there will be another, I'm sure, this is a curation of the feminine wisdom and transformation experience of 20 women, including myself.
And it's extraordinary. And actually, you and I met at your book signing. So that was a blessing for many of us. And in fact, one of the women featured in your book, Clarice Ringwald, I'm interviewing her next week on this show.
Excellent.
Yes. And then I'm, still trying to get Jackie to interview. She must be busy. I don't know.
Well, then that is a sure sign that you must interview her, because it's the that have a lot of fascinating stuff and feminine wisdom to share. And don't get me wrong, I like men. I married several of them. But this is a book, and this is a conversation that has begun, that it is about womanhood. And as they say, that adventure of womanhood wonderland. And so, yeah, for sure, there's a lot of wisdom out there to harness.
And I did garner a lot of that from this book. And I too felt that, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one too. Like, I didn't have a high, powered corporate job, but I've gone through changes as well. And we all go through many of the same changes as women, menopause and, marriage, divorce, children, empty nesting, all that stuff. So it's nice to know you're not the only one, and you have a community in which you can collaborate and or gain further wisdom from. So with that, I would love for you to talk about you've created a tribe for women as a catalyst, and I'd love for you to talk about the Encore Catalyst and your vision for that offering.
Thank you. It's taken me a while to really get clear and anchor into what this journey has been about in this last 10 years-ish of my evolution. And it's now very clear to me that what I've been training for all my life is to be a trailblazer, to be a catalyst for other people, other women, and to create a community where it feels safe and exciting to share. And we're not getting together to complain about our hot flashes. We're getting together to talk about, well, yes, there are physical changes. There's no stopping that for sure in our lives.
Right.
And there are career changes and relationship changes, and there's ambitions and goals that we have sort of kept in our back pocket in our life while we took care of everybody else and our responsibilities. So that came together. I repurposed, reinvented something that I started about 5 years ago called the Encore Catalyst, which had a slightly different purpose at the time, but again, it was definitely evolving too. So the Encore Catalyst provides a forum for women to come together, to share knowledge and wisdom, to find out, to learn about this process of how do you write the script for your next and best role in life, what I like to call your encore. Because if you know the process and you can watch for, the milestones along the way and the, the pitfalls, it's so much easier and so much more rewarding. And I talk about that a lot. The last part of the book is an overview of that methodology that I developed, and that's what we use in the Encore Catalyst. This also led me to revive something else that I created. I'm a creator, I'm an inventor. And so to revive something called the Transformation Decoded. And you mentioned earlier my mastermind friends. And so 3 of us have come together to create a video podcast series all about demystifying and clarifying transformation as women. It's intended to, we're sharing our own stories and our own experiences. And when this pandemic allows us to get into studio, we'll be interviewing guests such as you do. And hopefully that inspires and encourages other women to succeed in whatever it is they want to do next. And then finally, what evolved was that there is a need for a campus where we as women who are transforming and reinventing can go to find the information and the skills and work, learn from the subject matter experts in all of the areas that are important to us. And so I created the Encore Academy. And that is that's my lift as you climb. It's another way I give back, because I'm bringing together a faculty of subject matter experts, and we'll have online programming available at affordable rates, but rich with knowledge and content, and also community and engagement. And in fact, you mentioned Clarice Ringwald. Clarice is going to be on our faculty. So those are the three areas that I would never have guessed. I never dreamt I would have a chemical empire. And now I have created a new fempire.
Fempire. I love it. I love it. And, you know, it follows along with what's really happening in the world today, and which I know myself and other people have seen education changing, you know, from just traditional universities and things like that to so many different types of online learning. And that's the way of the future. So I hope that people take advantage of what you have to offer, because like you said, it is going to be rich material and affordable, most likely, and life-changing and helpful. So that sounds amazing to me.
Thank you. That's my commitment. That's my objective. And the faculty members, I mean, we're so aligned in purpose and value. We want to give back and help others.
Fantastic. So, Isabel, where can people find you? Where can people find all these wonderful places that you're going to be offering?
Excuse me. The easiest way is to go to the Encore Catalyst. So www.theencorecatalyst.com. That will give you an overview of everything that we're working on putting together now. And if your audience, if your followers are interested in sort of understanding a little more about this, what we said, I've never been this me before, I would love to offer them the full chapter from the book, as with my compliments and my gratitude for them listening with you. And they just put their name and email address in, and I will be delighted to share that chapter. And I'll be curious if you get some comments where your audience says, oh yeah, I can see me in that story.
Okay, so it's the EncoreCatalyst.com, correct?
Yeah.
I think I typed it in the chat box there. So
you did. That's absolutely perfect, Lisa. Yeah, okay. That's right. And that way they can get the free chapter of the book, which is I've never been this me before. And if there's anything else that we're doing in the next little while, we're happy to share.
Is there any other place that you want people to go? Like you have a Facebook group or anything like that? Or is that in the future?
Oh, thank you. No, thank you so very, very much for reminding me. So yes, we have a thriving, engaged group on Facebook under the Encore Catalyst umbrella, and it's called Evolutionary Women. And I think the title, Evolutionary Women Group, and that's what it is. We are evolving. We are not done yet. We are not expired women at this age. We are now reinventing and transitioning to the next amazing part of our lives.
So I want to get this correct. So facebook.com/evolutionary, is it women with an E, women group?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to put that in the chat box here too. And I just kind of want to add something. Like, I remember back in my 40s when I don't know what led me to this, but I don't know if you followed Angeles Arian, but she's a cultural anthropologist. No. And she talked about the second half of life. This was her tape series. I got it, like literally cassette tape series. That's how old it was.
They were some of the best. You could put it in your Walkman and go, right?
Yeah. And she talked about the idea of generativity and getting to a place in your life where, number one, you have this wisdom that you want to share with the world. and that you can, and what else? Oh, and then that you want to use your creativity when you get to our age, like this is not, like you said, this is not the end of the road. Like we have another 30, 40 years to go. So let's use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've never had this experience before, right? Because historically, our mothers and our grandmothers' generations, they weren't getting this old, and they certainly weren't expecting to live, as you said, 3, 4 more decades. So, if we don't run out of money, we certainly better, engage in things that keep us interested and active and vibrant. And I also feel, Lisa, that it's a responsibility for us now. It's on our shoulders to share with our generations behind us, because we've already done the hard work and we've learned some stuff. So
Yeah.
let's reach back and share that and share it with each other, because we all have different experiences. Yeah.
Well, Isabel, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I feel really honored that you decided to say yes when I asked you to be interviewed. So thank you so much. Yes, namaste. So grateful to all of you out there who paid attention and watched this video. Thank you so much. Again, you can find me at lisanellercoaching.com and reinventionlifecoach.com. So I do offer a complimentary session if you're ever interested in learning what it's like to sit and talk to a coach for a while. And so I'll look forward to hearing from you. But until next time, have a fabulous week and weekend, and thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. I've really had a wonderful evening with you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.